All right, so let me get this next video up. And this one is going to be about, did we talk about, no, we'll watch that one next. So this one's going to be about, oops, I shared the wrong screen again. Apologies. Okay, so this one, it's going to be speaking about how the Milky Way is going to be the scar in the firmament from when it was rolled back like a scroll. Very fascinating information here. So let me share this video link for you all.
That is, I watched that earlier. It's fascinating and I think very possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
They gave another possibility too, but which is possible, but I think this is a very good video, very well done, short and sweet.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So yeah, here's the link to the video. Let me go ahead. I'll mute it and just play it. It's less than 5 minutes, so
Hey, Jeremy,
shouldn't be too long. Yeah.
when you post those, remember to put that or the link that.
Oh, yeah. I just copy and paste is really what I do. Otherwise, to try and move it along faster. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
It's okay.
And yeah, no, Angel. All these videos, they're saved in our video library in the library group, and I have to catch up on putting our last couple fellowships on YouTube, but I will do that as well. And you know, they'll be on my YouTube channel as well. And yeah, it can definitely be challenging in understanding, but yeah. So this video is actually really good, and here I'll just go ahead and play it. It's less than 5 minutes here. So yeah, definitely some things to consider, and it's definitely in scriptures, 100%. So there, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of controlled opposition out there. They try to put things out to get people to not even look into things. Kind of the best example I can give is like what they do with the Maseroth. They take out the name Maseroth, they call it zodiacs and horoscopes and things like that. And most people think like, oh, we're not even supposed to look at the stars or anything in the heavens. Like, don't worry about that. Otherwise, it's witchcraft. Well, that's not true. If it's used the way the world uses it, yeah, it's witchcraft. But Yahuwah created all of that to give us these heavenly scrolls and the signs for things. So just it's kind of the same way with literally everything else. The little season, uh, biblical cosmology, all these things. And then here's going to be the next one. And hold on one second. Yeah, I saw Raphael in there who just joined. Shalom and welcome.
Shalom, brother.
And yeah, we're really just discussing the possibility of the little season of deception of Satan. And we're going over some scriptures and videos about it. And just really doing a deep dive into everything. And don't worry, we have it all recorded. So if you need to catch up, we'll have it available for you. Yeah, shalom and welcome. Good to have you here. And really, this all connects in with the calendar as well and the importance of the North.
My network
So
is
this,
frustrating. I didn't hear you very well.
Uh, hold on one second. Is It was hard to hear you very well there. uh,
I can hear you now.
you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, welcome. Glad you can join us.
Yeah, well,
So,
welcome, Raphael. Yeah, we'd love to know what the connection of the Satan season and the Camp of the Saints up the north. We'd love to, and the calendar. We'd love to tie that all together because I know it's all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually so in Madeline's video I was going to play here in a bit. She's going to go over the Camp of the Saints in the north. And we went over that scripture Marissa just shared. Or was it Deuteronomy 2:3?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, turn your eyes towards the north or turn towards the north.
Yeah, you've been around this mountain long enough. Turn northward.
Yeah. And then we see the Garden of Eden could possibly be in the north as well. Or at least it was when it was here on earth. Because when Adam and Eve got sent out, they were sent out to the east of the garden. And on the biblical cosmology, on a flat stationary plane, to the east of the north is literally the land of Israel. Just some fascinating stuff. But this video here is going to talk about how the stars fell from the sky. And it's very interesting and, just gives more, evidence that what scripture says about the stars falling from the sky, the sun going dark, the moon turning blood red, just gives credence to all these events that, look, they did happen. So I believe it's definitely a possibility. But let me go ahead and make sure I have the audio. Yeah, I got it. Let me go ahead and play it. And
Cataclysmic Lisbon earthquake in 1755 and Day of Darkness in 1780. Biblical and millennial scholars were now awaiting the fulfillment of the next prophetic verse from the New Testament. The stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Revelation 6:13. This too was to occur. It happened on the night of November 12th and 13th, 1833. As with the earthquake and the dark day, this too was an unimaginably dramatic event. The following historic account is posted on the National Aeronautical and Space Administration's page about the Leonids meteor showers. On the night of November 12th to 13th, 1833, a tempest of falling stars broke over the Earth. The sky was scored in every direction with shining tracks illuminated with majestic fireballs. At Boston, the frequency of meteors was estimated to be about half that of flakes of snow in an average snowstorm. Their numbers were quite beyond counting, but as it waned, a reckoning was attempted, from which it was computed, on the basis of that much diminished rate, that 240,000 must have been visible during the 9 hours they continued to fall. Agnes Clerks, Victorian astronomy writer. In the American Journal of Science, Professor Olmsted included a report from a correspondent in Bowling Green, Missouri, as follows. Though there was no moon, when we first observed them, their brilliancy was so great that we could, at times, read common-sized print without much difficulty. And the light which they afforded was much wider than that of the moon, in the clearest and coldest night, when the ground is covered with snow. The air itself, the face of the earth as far as we could behold it, all the surrounding objects, and the very countenances of men, wore the aspect and hue of death, occasioned by the continued, pallid glare of these countless meteors, which in all their grandeur flamed lawless through the sky. There was scarcely a space in the firmament which was not filled at every instant with these falling stars. Volume 25, 1834, page 382. We even have this account from a young Abraham Lincoln. When I was a young man in Illinois, I boarded for a time with a deacon of the Presbyterian Church. One night I was roused from my sleep by a rap at the door, and I heard the deacon's voice exclaiming, "Arise, Abraham, the day of judgment has come." I sprang from my bed and rushed to the window, and saw the stars falling in great showers. It was also witnessed by the famed abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, who at the time was a 15-year-old slave living in Maryland. I witnessed this gorgeous spectacle, and was awestruck. The air seemed filled with bright descending messengers from the sky. It was about daybreak when I saw this sublime scene. I was not without the suggestion, at that moment, that it might be the harbinger of the coming of the Son of Man, and in my then state of mind I was prepared to hail him as my friend and deliverer. I had read that the stars shall fall from heaven, and they were now falling. I was suffering very much in my mind. I was looking away to heaven for the rest denied me on earth. Here is another eyewitness account. Being up this morning, I witnessed one of the most grand and alarming spectacles which ever beamed upon the eye of man. The light in my room was so great that I could see the hour of the morning by my watch which hung over my mantel, and supposing there was a fire near at hand, probably on my own premises, I sprung to the window, and behold, the stars or some other bodies presenting a fiery appearance were descending in torrents as rapid and as numerous as I ever saw flakes of snow, or drops of rain, in the midst of a storm. Joseph Smith, the founder of the LDS, or Mormon Church, was also a witness of this event. Here is his account. About 4:00 a.m. I was awakened by Brother Davis knocking at my door, and calling me to arise and behold the signs in the heavens. I arose, and to my great joy, beheld the stars fall from heaven like a shower of hailstones, a literal fulfillment of the Word of God, as recorded in the Holy Scriptures. The co-founder of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ellen G. White, later said that the starry spectacle was, quote, the last of the signs, which were promised by the Savior as tokens of his second advent, from the Great Controversy, p. 333, which appears on the AdventistReview.org website. Interestingly, the Adventist Review also mentions the Reverend William Miller, who was also a co-founder of the Adventist Church and a prominent figure in the millennial movement. Here's the passage. On the night the stars fell, William Miller was a 51-year-old lecturer unwittingly starting a movement that gained steam until the great disappointment 11 years later, when the hopes of his followers that Jesus would return on October 22, 1844, were dashed. As we'll later learn, Reverend Miller's extensive study of the book of Daniel in the Old Testament led him to the conclusion that Jesus would return in 1844. As we'll also explore later, it so happens the Baha'i faith was founded in Persia in 1844, and its founder was born on November 12, the date when the night of the starfall began. He would have been 16 years old that day.
Yeah, so, if you want, if you're listening to this later on YouTube or even now, you can go and look up the day the stars fell from the sky, and there's going to be a lot of information about it. Apologies for the AI voice video. I know people don't like the AI voices. It was just one I found really quickly. And actually, so before we play the Sides of the North video...
Can anyone hear this?
Yeah, I can hear you. Shalom, brother. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we heard you there.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I noticed something that you were looking at Greenland. I messaged about this before in the past. And if you guys are interested, I don't know if there's CGI involved or if there's something very much real there that they're using CGI to cover. But if you go to Bing and you go to Greenland and you zoom in closely, you'll see what appears to be a very, very massive wall with definite right angles, which appears to be a gigantic wall around most of the outside of Greenland. So whatever is there, if there is indeed maybe a massive palace or something, or if it's just CGI, it might be worth looking into.
Wow, interesting. I'll have to look into that more. Oh, thank you, brother. But so before we play the Sides of the North video, actually, Sister Marissa, she can actually go and make some of the connections with the calendar about the North here, and she has a few slides she would like to share as well. So yeah, whenever you're ready, there, sister.
Yeah, so the topic we've all been talking about today, it was not something that I was super interested in previously, but I found just in my calendar studies that it brought me to this topic, oddly enough. So um, one of the most fascinating verses to me has always about the calendar has always been Enoch 72:5. And so I posted that a little while ago in the chat. And so the verse reads, "The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven." And so that verse is really loaded. There's actually three different parts to that verse to consider. So before I connect all three parts there, I want to talk about the first part where it says the sun returns through the north. And so north is, there's three different parts to the north that we need to consider. So everybody has a preconceived notion when they think north, what they're considering. Some people might say, well, there's four quarters of the world, or, oh, well, north is above us, like the North Star. Or if they believe in biblical cosmology, they might say it's the center of the earth, that's north. And so that's really where Jeremy has been getting at in his slides, in his presentation today. And so I just wanted to share a few slides from the calendar presentation I did a couple weeks ago, just specifically the section about the North. So I'm gonna share my screen here. All right. Did that pull it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's hope this goes to the right slide. Okay, cool. So this is honestly the most fascinating part of all of this that I think in this whole presentation, and is currently at the peak focus that I have about the calendar. So, all right, let's see if I can get this to turn. For some reason I can't, guys. I don't know why it's not turning. Can you see it enough though?
I think if you pop it out, there's a little pop out button. You can make the screen pop out there.
I don't think so. Hold on. Let me try reopening it.
Okay.
Sorry, now I'm scrolling through it all. All right. Usually it lets me turn it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I don't know why it's not doing it. All right, well, I'm going to read it to you guys anyway. So, all right, so just as I was talking about the different concepts of north, so where exactly is north? North changes meaning depending on the plane. So the plane that you're viewing north from. And so I attributed some anatomical terms to this to describe it, because in like you'll learn that in anatomy that there are different body planes to suggest like the direction that you're describing. So in the transverse plane, we're talking about one of the four quarters of the earth. And while in the sagittal plane, it's an upward direction into the heavens. So if you think about the biblical earth, if you divided it into four quarters, one of those quarters is going to be the northern quarter, and the rest south, east, and west. But if you're thinking about the upwards direction, we're thinking about Polaris, the North Star. So I have here two of them. Transverse north, also known as cardinal north, is oriented like map north, like one of the four quarters of the earth. And so, and I explain it like that too because there is other calendar understandings, people teaching about the calendar that are saying, well, guys, the East is first. Well, the East is first. I agree with that. But she is specifically talking about the four quarters of the earth and doesn't understand that concept that there is more than one northern direction to where we're living. This is a 3D world. We don't live in 2D. So we have the transverse north or cardinal north, and then we have sagittal north, also known as true north. It's oriented like upward north toward the sky, away from the Earth's surface. It represents direction in the vertical plane, whereas transverse north is the horizontal ground plane and the four quarters of the Earth. However, there's also magnetic north, and so that is the center of the earth. I hope other people, everybody else here, views the earth the same way, and which we'll see north in the center of the map, also known as the North Pole. So magnetic north is defined by the earth's magnetic field pointing towards the center of the earth. So this determines compass orientation and guides navigation. So your compasses are going to go towards magnetic north. So this differs from the other norths that I've been describing here. And then south would be the opposite direction of it. Everything away from north is south in this concept of magnetic north. So we have three different ways of understanding north. And then we also see this described in scripture. Jubilees 8:19 says, "And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies, and the dwelling of Yahweh, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Zion, the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other." And so I have the three of them just mapping this out here. We have a picture of Polaris for true north or sagittal north. And then we have a picture of supposedly where Mount Zion is on the earth. And so that would be the northern quarter, transverse north, or cardinal north. And then we also have magnetic north being the center of the earth. And you can see right there, that's a little mountain in the center of that map. So here's another example in scripture where they're talking about sagittal north, and we have to listen to the way that these sentences are constructed. Ezekiel 8:3, and he stretched out the form of a hand and took me by the lock of my hair. And the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heavens, and brought me into visions of Elohim to Jerusalem, to the door of the north gate of the inner court, where the seat of the image of jealousy was, which causes jealousy. And so, like, as I read that, the seat of the image of jealousy, who was jealous of Yahuwah and his throne? Well, that's none other than Hasatan. So where the seat of the image of jealousy was. And so he is represented in our realm in a lot of different ways as Antichrist spirit, and also in Tammuz, anything that's against Yah and the truth. So Ezekiel 8:4 says, and see, the esteem of the Elohim of Yasharel was there, like the vision that I saw in the plain. And he said to me, Son of man, please lift your eyes toward the north. And I lifted my eyes northward. And north of the slaughter place gate, I saw this image of jealousy in the entrance. Ezekiel 8:6, and he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they are doing? The great abominations which the house of Yasharel are doing here, driving me away from my set-apart place, and you are to see still greater abominations. And so we know that Yah's set-apart place, his throne room, is in the north. And that's made evident by those northern lights. They are the same colors as depicted about his throne, where they talk about jasper stone and other stones, and I can't think of the names now. But that is where his set apart place is. He is in the heavens. So here's Ezekiel 43:5. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house. And the man stood by me. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne, and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Yasharel forever. And my holy name shall the house of Yasharel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places. Yah's set apart place of his throne and the soles of his feet is in the northward. And I'd just like to draw your focus to where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Yasharel forever. So in the midst is in the middle. So what is below Polaris on the biblical earth? All right, so we see Enoch 77 here divides the north into 3 parts. And the 4th quarter, named the north, is divided into 3 parts. The first of them is for the dwelling of men. And the second contains seas of water, and the abysses, and forests, and rivers, and darkness, and clouds. And the third part contains the garden of righteousness. I saw 7 high mountains, higher than all the mountains which are on the earth. And thence comes forth hoarfrost, and days, seasons, and years pass away. So the north is also where days, seasons, and years pass away, marking it as the ending point of time cycles. So together with Enoch 72:5, these passages show us that the north is the pivot of creation's cycles, where time both begins and ends. The sun traverses north in order to return to the east, to the beginning of its circuit. And here in Enoch 77, cycles also conclude, emphasizing the ordered, intentional nature of creation. So here's our three parts of the north again. So we have the first is the dwelling of men, which correlates to that transverse or cardinal north, where I showed that picture of Mount Sinai. Number two is the seas, abysses, forests, rivers, gardens, and clouds, which attributes to the center of the earth where all the rivers meet the sea. And number three is the garden of righteousness, which is Yah's set apart place. So the 7 high mountains is what is in the center. All right. So magnetic north, now that we're here, these 7 high mountains mentioned, Ezekiel 43:7 tells us that he will dwell in the midst of the children of Yasharel forever. In this context of being in the midst of his people, it could very well be relating to the center of the earth where Mount Zion is. This little mountain here on these old maps is called the Rupus Nigra, Latin for black rock. If anybody has heard that term, black rock, and how the enemy has used that, it's described in early maps and legends as a massive magnetic rock located at the North Pole. Medieval and Renaissance cartographers believed it to be a central feature of the Arctic, sometimes said to be surrounded by a whirlpool or encircled by several large islands. Its magnetic properties were thought to influence the compass, explaining the orientation of navigational instruments. And this is interesting how, so I copy and pasted that little excerpt about Rupus Nigra. But what's interesting is how it's said to be surrounded by a whirlpool. And so if you've ever seen Lost History of the Flat Earth, it describes the Earth as a toroidal field. And in the center, it shows this like whirlpool, this spiral, if you will. And so I was thinking a lot about this, these seven high mountains, and I'm like, well, gee, I've also seen this in scripture somewhere, and Yah led me to chapter 24 of Enoch, and and 25, and I'm going to read them both. And from thence I went to another place of the earth, and he showed me a mountain range of fire which burnt day and night. And I went beyond it and saw 7 magnificent mountains, all differing each from the other, and the stones thereof were magnificent and beautiful, magnificent as a whole, of glorious appearance and fair exterior, 3 towards the east, one founded on the other, and 3 towards the south, one upon the other, and deep and rough ravines, no one of which joined with any other. And the 7th mountain was in the midst of these, and it excelled them in height, resembling the seat of a throne. What's also interesting about that is when we look at the menorah, we look at the one all the way to the right as the 7th branch, but that's not true. The 7th is the one in the middle, and the 7th mountain is the one in the midst. And the middle branch is the straight branch, like the nature of Yah. Straight is the way. All right. And so, okay, resembling the seat of a throne. And fragrant trees encircled the throne. And amongst them was a tree such as I had never yet smelt. Neither was any amongst them, nor were other like it. It had a fragrance beyond all fragrance, and its leaves and blooms and wood wither not forever. And its fruit is beautiful, and its fruit resembles the dates of a palm. Then I said, how beautiful is this tree, and fragrant, and its leaves are fair, and it blooms very delightful in appearance. Then answered Michael, one of the holy and honored angels who was with me, and was their leader. Enoch 25. And he said unto me, Enoch, why dost thou ask me regarding the fragrance of the tree? And why dost thou wish to learn the truth? Then I answered him, saying, I wish to know everything, but especially about this tree. And he answered, saying, This high mountain which thou hast seen, whose summit is like the throne of Yahuwah, is his throne, where the Holy Great One, the Elohim of glory, eternal King, will sit when he shall come down to visit the earth with goodness. And as for this fragrant trees encircled, no mortal is permitted to touch it till the great judgment, when he shall take vengeance on all, and bring everything to its consummation forever. It shall then be given to the righteous and holy. Its fruit shall be for food to the elect. It shall be transplanted to the holy place, to the temple of Elohim, the eternal King. Then shall they rejoice with joy and be glad, and into the holy place shall they enter, and its fragrance shall be in their bones. And they shall live a long life on earth, such as their fathers lived. And in their days shall no sorrow or plague or torment or calamity touch them. Then I bless the Yahuwah of glory, the eternal King, who hath prepared such things for the righteous, and hath created them, and promised to give to them. And so that's really interesting, with the camp of the saints being said to be in the north. So that's our promise, our land of promise. So the question is, why is this land hidden? Colossians 1:16 says, "For by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him." 2 Ezra 13 says, "And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice, like as the earth fails when it feels the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not." So he couldn't see it. All right. And then further on in the chapter, it reads, "And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as you saw them willing to come, and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion. And Zion shall come and shall be shown to all men, being prepared and built, like as you saw the hill graven without hands." Enoch 1:3-4 says, "Concerning the elect I said, and took up my parable concerning them. The Holy Great One will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal Elohim will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear from his camp, and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens." So he's going to appear from his camp. And even though this says Mount Sinai here, we know there are three parts to the north. So 2 Ezra says, "For behold, the time will come when the signs which I have foretold to you will come to pass, that the city which now is not seen shall appear, and the land which now is hidden shall be disclosed." This is from the Testament of Levi. "For he will give the majesty to the Lord to his children in truth forever, and none will succeed him for all generations ever. And in his priesthood the Gentiles will be multiplied in knowledge on the earth, and enlightened by the grace of Yahuwah. In his priesthood sin will come to an end, and the lawless will cease to do evil, and the just will rest in him. And he will open the gates of paradise, and will remove the threatening sword against Adam. And he will give to the saints to eat from the tree of life, and the spirit of holiness will be upon them. And Beliar will be bound by him, and he will give power to his children to trample upon the evil spirits. And Yahuwah will rejoice in his children, and be well pleased in his beloved ones forever. Then Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be joyful, and I will be glad, and all the saints will clothe themselves with joy. So Ezekiel 31 affirms this. Which of the trees of Eden can be compared with you in splendor and majesty? Yet you too will be brought down with the trees of Eden to the earth below. You will lie among the uncircumcised, with those killed by the sword. This is Pharaoh and all his hordes, declares Yahuwah Adonai. And so I know that can be a little bit confusing, but it's said elsewhere that those ravines are where the wicked will be. That's where they will dwell, in the ravines below the camp of the saints. So you will lie among the uncircumcised. That's what that's saying. So Jubilees 4:26 says, and he, Enoch, was taken from amongst the children of men, and we conducted him into the Garden of Eden in majesty and honor. And behold, there he writes down the condemnation and judgment of the world, and all the wickedness of the children of men. And on account of it, Yahuwah brought the waters of the flood upon all the land of Eden. For there he was set as a sign, and that he should testify against all the children of men, and he should recount all the deeds of the generations until the day of judgment. And he burnt the incense of the sanctuary, even sweet spices, acceptable before the Lord on the mount. So Mount Zion. So I hope that provides some connection to the calendar for you guys. And if anybody has any questions, I'm open to taking them.
Yeah, awesome. Good job. And yeah, that's exactly the connection I was trying to make. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to finish. At the beginning, I read Enoch 72:5. Yes. So let me just go back to that one real quick. So it says, just to tie this in, the chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east. So what that's saying is, at the North Pole, the sun moves differently. And so on the last day of the year, the sun is still traversing along the horizon in a circle. So if we think about biblical cosmology, and we've all seen how the sun makes like the big circles, and then the smallest circle is in the center. So in the north, the sun traverses around the center, and they can see that sun all the way from east to south to west to north to east to south to west to north. So it's going in a circle around them. So on the last day of the year, that sun appears half up and half down. And so the next day, the sun is entirely over the horizon. And so this is the sun traversing through the north to the north, because it's in the northern portion of the analemma that the sun makes throughout the year. So the northern portion of the sun's cycle is for half of the year. And on this day, the sun is now entirely over the horizon, meaning it has crossed into the north. And so it says the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east. So that's the second part, in order to reach the east. On that day where the sun is entirely above the horizon and has now traversed north, that is the day of the equinox for the rest of the world, where the sun rises at 90 degrees east for us and creates that straight line shadow. It has returned to the east simultaneously. So the sun returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. Shines in the face of the heaven is the third part of the sentence that matters. Because on that day of the equinox, that the sun rises exactly 90 degrees east and sets exactly 270 degrees west, the sun will be directly overhead and shining in the face of the heaven. The face of the heaven being the center of the Shamayim. So it's shining in the face of the heaven. This is the equinox day. And the next verse says, in this way, he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth. This is the very next day, because the sun has 364 days to its circuit. And that equinox day is what divides the year. It is the day of verse 5, the sun traversing to the north, returning to the east, and shining in the face of the heaven. It is between portals 3 and 4. It is the proverbial line in the sand, if you will. It is also not on the curve of time, the way the sun is the very next day and the day before it. So, yeah.
And that's why it's honestly, it's a lot of confirmations to me. And that's how it's connecting this little season we're into the calendar, you know? But yeah, no, excellent information. And oh, I didn't know that, Sister Jermaine. I thought he just recently joined that bandwagon. But so I shared it's John Pounder's podcast channel on YouTube, Pounder's Quest. And he doesn't have a lot of videos yet because it's a rather new thing that he's doing. But it's a lot about the little season and Tartaria, and he goes into the Cabbage Patch Kids and all these things basically. And you know, he's seen it as well. And you know, he has a lot of good guests on there. He has Gary Wayne. He has what is it? JT loves JC or something. That little season guy. He has quite a few amazing guests on there, and of course, not all of them will agree that about Satan's little season, just like we are here. I know everybody doesn't agree about it, but honestly, it's really fascinating to look into. And when you do look into it, it just reveals more and more how they lie and hide our history. And yeah, Noel, what's his name? What's his last name? Yeah, Noel Hadley, yes. He has some interesting information. He actually has some videos about the War Scroll and how the War Scroll found in the Dead Sea Scrolls is actually talking about, you know, that war of sons, the sons of light and the sons of darkness that happened. And he speaks about how it was the sons of Zadok who went and destroyed that temple in Jerusalem with the help of Rome because it was defiled. he has interesting information as well, although definitely use discernment. He also has a lot of strange eschatology, is really how I can put it. But
Wait, did you just say that the priests of Zadok are the ones who destroyed the temple in Rome? I mean, the
yes,
temple
in
in
Jerusalem,
Jerusalem. Really?
yes.
I was thinking it was probably the Edomites, or of course the Romans. That's the official narrative. But you think it was the priests of Zadok, huh? Is
Oh,
there
yeah.
that would be an interesting concept? Is there any evidence of that?
Oh, there's a whole lot, and it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls themselves.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
in the War Scroll itself, it describes a lot of it. And Noel has some other evidence in history to back it up as well. And I'll have to find that video. It's just hard to find and pin which video because he just has some wild names for his videos, so and they're not really
Wow.
about. But it's hard
Huh.
to find which video, but I'll have to find it. And
Huh. Were
he
they
speaks from,
working with were they working with the Romans?
yeah, apparently they
Really?
were working with the Romans to do that. But then because the Romans were corrupt, they got taken out as well.
Okay,
And
what
this
happened to the priests of Zadok after that?
they were part of the millennial kingdom.
Okay,
They
well, that
they were some
makes
of the
sense.
ones who survived. They were some of the ones who survived until the
Okay, that
coming.
makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes sense. Well, why would they destroy the temple? Is it
it was.
because it was so defiled?
Oh yeah, it was defiled. They had the illegitimate priesthood in there. The Hasmonean dynasty. It was
Yeah.
all, and they actually had their own temple at Qumran, and they had a temple right there in Egypt, in the land of
Yeah.
Mosiah.
Well, instead of destroying the temple, why didn't they just use the Romans to help exterminate those vermin?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it seems like that would be better to take back the temple rather than destroy it, unless they
Well,
felt it was just too defiled. It's like the earth. The earth is going to be burned because it needs to be cleansed. It's too defiled.
yeah, well, it's like Messiah said, because we know Messiah definitely went to them and taught them. So he was saying, no longer, this temple, it doesn't matter anymore because our bodies are the temple where his Ruach will dwell.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that makes sense.
And because it was so close to the end right there, the millennium, just before the millennial reign, they didn't need that temple anymore.
Well,
So it was just,
they must have known what was coming.
yeah, I absolutely believe they did. I believe I side with Noel Hadley on that aspect because he goes into really deep detail and he also provides a lot of other historical evidence along with it to support it.
Yeah, he's pretty fascinating. So he does. I haven't seen his teaching on that, but he does a teaching on it, huh?
Yeah, yeah. He has a teaching
Okay.
on that. He's got quite a few on the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Huh. I've watched a lot of his stuff, but I haven't seen that.
But of course, he also has that, eschatology that's way out there sometimes. So just discernment.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, no, fascinating stuff. And
Hmm. Okay.
I, I think it supports this even more. And to be honest, like I believe pretty much 100% we are in the little season right now. And I know there are some who disagree, but from everything I've researched and studied, and not just me, but others as well, and everyone in our group here, even. And then finally, that connection to the calendar that Marissa just showed everybody, that was confirmation to me, not only for the little season, but the calendar as well.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it all goes together to me anyway. But this is why I say, we got to test everything out, follow no man. And we have to take these things and test them out for ourselves to his word.
Hmm. That is true.
I just think, I think it's definitely confirmation of all this, and especially how it's bringing it all together. You know, no pun intended, but full circle.
Hmm.
And I did share a couple, and so did Lee actually, but I shared a couple of pictures in chat, and then uh, both me and Lee were sharing those. They're called toroidal vortexes, is what they're called. And so if you look, you can see like that north, where the north would be. It's this splitting image of basically like Yahuwah sitting above the north, and then he shines down upon us. And if you put like a flat disc right in the center of that entire sphere, like going across the whole thing, that would be our plane of existence here on Earth. So that would be our Earth basically. And that's kind of what I was meaning about New Jerusalem being round, or more of a sphere.
Oh,
And we would be if you put like a pancake going across the whole thing right through the middle, that would be a flat stationary plane.
wow.
And that would be our Earth. And then the one I shared, it shows that basically that vortex of time, that spiral of time that goes in a circle. I don't know if I can describe it quite. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go, Marissa. Just like that. Yeah. So yeah, what Marissa's
Yeah.
showing there, exactly. Yeah, and that's that spiral. Yeah, all of that. Yeah, the toroidal. Yeah, Lost History of the Flat Earth speaks about that. If you haven't watched that, it's really amazing, and he goes through a lot of information there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I do want to play Madeline's video here. Not the whole thing, but the big part where she's basically going over the maps and talking about the camp of the saints in the north. And so it'll hopefully give like a visual and a picture, and she even goes through all the maps of basically what we're describing here. Yeah, the spiral of the analemma going upwards. Yeah, exactly. Give me just a moment. Let me get the video up for everybody. The link really quick. All right, so excuse me. That's the link to the whole video there in chat. Let me get it up on the screen for everybody. So this video is talking about the sides of the north, or straight is the gate is what she calls it. And she actually goes over, she calls it the International Gate Line. And she kind of explains a bit about that. And, you know, we've discussed that a few times as well. But the fascinating thing is it goes across like 3 different time zones. And three different time zones are missing from what they say is there. And it's rather fascinating. Here, let me just play the video. She'll probably explain it a lot better than me. But the link's there in chat. And let me go ahead and pause it and or mute myself, and I will play the video.
At the north here and seeing how far north we can go. I want to talk a little bit about this map, which is the Ortelius map, and I'm trying to think what year it is, 1570. So it's essentially focusing on the area around Greenland and the Northern Sea, which would also include the ocean of Hyperborea, is what they used to call it. And we can see here there's Ireland and those Northern islands as well. So we've got England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales obviously is in there. We don't want to forget Wales. And the Germanic Ocean, the Outer Hebrides are showing there as well. And then the Faroe Islands are there at the top. So these are distinguishable. There are some islands there that are not showing on the newer maps, and just want to point that out as well. And I also want to say that there's these red dots all over the map, and I believe that those are almost like, I don't want to call them kingdom points or castles, fortresses, I'm not sure. But over here, if we go back to this Google Earth map, we can see that there's Iceland. Okay, and the Faroe Islands, and it looks fairly empty around Iceland. And it just looks like Iceland and Greenland. And then Svalbard further up. I think that's Svalbard, which belongs to Sweden. And then there's nothing other than very dark water in certain areas and some smaller islands. So if we go back to this map here, you know, we can see a few more islands dotted around in this area. And I'm labeling that island there as Iceland to the left, the white one. It says Friesland on it, and okay, we can disagree, but Greenland doesn't look anywhere near as big as it does in current maps or on Google Earth. And we can see that there's the ocean Hyperborea. And the Faroe Islands. But none of that. Actually, there's one island here, which there's a tiny little island, but there's only one. There's Greenland, and then this, which I think is Friesland. I think that is the smaller of these two islands next to Greenland. There's only one, you see? And the shape of it actually looks like that one to me. Again, free to disagree, but there's a reason I'm saying this also. And again, you can see the red dots there, and it does just bear a resemblance to Iceland in its shape and position. So that little crop out on the left, it just kind of looks the same to me. And really nothing else there. Very interesting, considering there's this island here, which actually is Islant, Thule, Island Thule. And if anyone knows that name, Thule, we're going to talk about that in a different video. I have a whole different, essentially it's linked to the early 20th century Germans. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But at this time, this is an island. And I don't see it on our maps, any modern maps. But it has castles, it has the red dots on it showing what look like castles to me, because as you go throughout, there's even some up there on Greenland, as you go throughout these old maps, you'll see that there is actually distinctly these kingdoms or kingdom outposts, or, you know, those might be your priests and kings, those areas that are being served by the Most High, Jesus Christ, the King, right? So, but yeah, Thule Island is not on our new maps. And then we have Greenland, which incidentally looks very, very close to the land at the north. But no Thule on our modern maps. It's also interesting, it sits right in the ocean of Hyperborea. But you can see how many red dots are here. There's many, many red dots. And on the Tartaria maps, they do the same thing. They put these red markers, and if you, this is a little bit of a blurry version, but if you look at them in a clear version, you'll see that they are castles. Oops. So this is the map, Artelius, Greenland, 1570. And then we have the Mercator map of 1595, showing the North Pole. And I just want to correlate the two. And as we go in here, you will see that again. Greenland, Iceland, that's what I'm going to call it. And the Arctic Circle, this red arc, goes right through the island of Thule. Again, you can see the Faroe Islands there, and one island, two islands. So I was just very curious why. And something else I have to say about this is the name Thule, Thule, is, if you look it up, they've given the name to a location on Greenland, which is very odd. And so I just want to make note of that. It's like they've hidden it, and then they've shifted the name to somewhere nearby, but, you know, almost as if you wanted to create a narrative of this place, you could just say, well, it was just Greenland, right? So, oh, look, there's a Thule on Greenland. And one other weird fact is that Thule is an outdoor gear company. So here in North America, you'll see lots of people driving around. Their cars will have a like a bicycle carrier on the back, and it has Thule on it. So just to make a note of that. Greenland, and then there's another little island there too that looks like it says Greenland, but again, just showing that this is very close on these maps. Greenland is very, very close to this mountainous region in the north. And Greenland's very mountainous as well by the looks of it, if we're trusting the details on this map. But that's a very, very, very close fit. And just showing here again, we just have these two islands that it's quite unexplainable. You can go look yourself. Greenland shows as one, and then there's just one Iceland next to it. So looking around here, there's a smattering of islands all around the side of the north as well. So we say the sides of the north. All these islands that have been somewhat just hidden. I guess there's no other word for it. They've been hidden on our modern maps. So it's just very interesting to look at these and to kind of see as well where the Arctic Circle goes through. I find it interesting that it goes right through the island of Thule. It looks quite populated too. There's quite a few locations named on there in both maps. So they obviously had names. They had, you know, they were recognized enough to put them on maps. And then here we have the Rupes Nigra, which is the black rock right in the middle. And I know a number of people have gone and translated these. I'm just going to keep moving through and across to the other side. And I want to point out that this area here is Alaska. It says California Regio. We don't really know, I don't really know, maybe other people do, what the name California means. I've heard a lot of conjecture. It says Hispanis on there, so maybe the Spanish had come all the way up and they were naming these places. But the Arctic Circle is quite a ways down from this area here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go in, and I just want to draw your attention to the El Stretto de Anian here, this narrow passage of water, which comes up between Russia and America, who own Alaska. Quite the thing that America actually bought Alaska. I think it was for $1. Could be wrong. So here we're looking at top of North America and top of Asia. And it does actually name Gog there. Number of other names are in there too that might be recognizable, such as Mongol, Tartar Villa. If you look through that, you'll see some names that are very recognizable. Belgian. It's quite strange to see that up so high there. But we can see Gog is there, which shows on a lot of the older maps actually. And so what I'm focusing on right here in the middle of this frame, if you can just, I'll zoom in here. I want you to read these words. It says Polus magnetis. This rock, Polus magnetis. And when you translate that, it says the magnetic pole. And we always hear the difference between true north and the magnetic north. And I think this is why the center, the true north, is not the same as the magnetic north, according to this, anyway. So we're going to do a little bit more research into that now. But you'll see that right above the Strait of Anian, which is the old name of the Bering Strait, beside Alaska and Russia, you get the magnetic pole. And then you get these waterways that come straight into the center where the North Pole is, the true north. And for those of us who believe that is a marker for Jesus Christ and the celestial city, the kingdom, that's the significance of this map. Now, whether it's floating above or whether it's actually on the North Pole is up for debate. And just to note as well, there's another narrow passage here, but essentially the North Pole, the magnetic pole is here. It seems strange to think, and you do need to deprogram that part of your brain if this is what you're going to start considering, because it's a very repeated thing that the true north is, that the center, the Rupus Nigra, is the magnetic north or is the magnetic pole. And just the point here is that I don't think they're the same thing. I think that's the magnetic pole and this is the true north. Again, we're going to look a little bit more into this. So going back to Google Earth, just zooming in here, we're back to that. This island here is in a position that matches that magnetic pole. And you can even see here, there's that little strait of water. And if we're going to look at this darker substance here as actually being land, then we're looking at the same map. And here might be those rivers that are indicated on the Mercator map. So just going in a little bit, you can see a little definition around there. And this is the north of Alaska. And so here would be that one of these, and I think it's this one, would be the magnetic pole. That looks a little too small to be it, so I'm going to go with this one for this hypothesis. And you'll notice this line coming through. So that was curious to me. And backing up, I realized something. That line, and some of you probably know this right off the bat, it's the international date line. So how interesting that it goes right through. And it kind of bends there. And I think that's just making up for this false globe. There's a bend in it, but I think that is just trying to correct it according to the globe. But essentially it comes up here, it comes up through a little bit of the Russian side. It doesn't go right through the Bering Strait. And it comes right through this island. And if we're talking about this island as if it's the magnetic pole, that is very, very interesting. And so I want to read this verse now, Matthew 7:14. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. That word straight is not the same as the word straight. There's two. And when we're talking about this word straight, that is the word that they use on these waterways. The Strait of Anian, the Bering Strait, is spelled like this, and this is in the King James Version. Straight is the gate, and narrow is the way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. I wanted to draw attention to that because words matter. They have different definitions in the original language. And as we're finding out, the Bible has a much more literal context than we've been taught. We've been taught to allegorize things, stories and features in the Bible. We've been taught. And I think learning biblical cosmology has been a big part of this awakening, reading the Bible more literally, but also paying attention to words, because words in the Bible are very specific. They've been given to us for a reason, and we should pay attention to that. So again, this is me conjecturing, but I'm just bringing it to your attention also. I think it's important for one reason or another. This is important. It was written this way for a reason, and we should really, really stop and look at these words, go into the concordances, and that's what I'm going to do now. So we're going to look at this in a little bit more original language context. And this word straight is not the word that's used throughout the Bible for the word straight. So we're going to find out now what is the difference between S-T-R-A-I-T and S-T-R-A-I-G-H-T, because they don't mean the same thing. And yeah, so this was a little clue for me. Again, I've done a KJV search on the other word straight, and you'll see it's referenced in the first 5 ones here, all the way up to Luke, not Matthew. Okay? So straight and straight in the KJV are 2 different words. Just bear with me a second. Okay. And so I also got curious about that area and what are the names of the places in that area. So we know the Bering Strait or the Strait of Anian. And what are the other places? And obviously Alaska is known for its capital city, which is Anchorage. And I did a little deep dive into Anchorage and the action of anchoring. Okay, so conditions admitting of anchoring, anchorage ground, a position of support, a hold, a stay for the mind or feelings, ship anchors, and in the church is an anchor, the new anchor in the Bible, and then the retreat of an anchoret. So held fast, firmly fixed. This is actually, I think, contextually, this is also related to biblical cosmology. When we think of the firmament, the fixed firmament, the fixed earth, this was a revelation to me. Anchorage, Alaska, right on the Bering Strait, right there in that Arctic area of the world. This language feels significant in the way that it's placed. So when I go back into the concordance, I use the Blue Letter Bible. We look at Matthew 7:14, and it says, "Because strait is the gate and narrow is the way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it." Again, so here the word is straight for a gate, like a portal, like a gate, and narrow. So here we go. It's 4728 in the concordance, and it's under the name stenos, straight. And it's from the base of the word G2476, straight, narrow. So we're going to look at that. To cause or make to stand, to place, put, or set. As we go through this, we'll see that there's a very, it doesn't mean straight as in a straight ruler. It means to stand, to place, to put, to set. So in the presence of others, to make firm, to establish, to cause a person or thing to keep his or its place. Again, just that idea of the firmament. And to stand, to be kept intact. Oops, sorry about that. So of family, a kingdom, to escape in safety. To establish a thing, cause it to stand. To escape in safety. These are the words that are used for straight. S-T-R-A-I-T. To set or place in a balance. Immovable, stand firm, of the foundation of a building. Is anyone finding this as interesting as I am? Because I always thought straight is the gate meant like a ruler, like straight. But no, this is what it means. Continue safe and sound, stand unharmed, to stand ready and prepared, to be of a steadfast mind. So we have this idea of standing still, firm, safety, unharmed, prepared, stand ready. All of this. Stand still to establish, and then the kingdom of family. So as it relates to the millennial kingdom, as it relates to finding Jesus, which is what we're all looking for, let's just bear this in mind, that the word straight is significant. It is significant. And then when I went down further down the page, I came to this. It says, when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east. So this is the same usage of this word, okay? When they saw, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. Talking about where Jesus was as a baby. Stood over where the young child was. This is the word for straight. To stand, to be firm, the foundation. And when the devil took Jesus up to the holy city, he set him on a pinnacle of the temple. Again, the same word, straight, to stand. Word analysis and word study is really, really critical when you're looking at the Bible. And I encourage everyone to get the Blue Letter Bible on your phone. You can find any verse you want and all the words that relate to it. Okay, Strait of Anian. Now this was pretty eye-opening as well. It was believed by early modern cartographers to mark the boundary between North America and Asia, and to permit access to a northwest passage from the Arctic Ocean to the Pacific. So permitting access was a part of this, the function of this strait. The true strait was discovered, blah, blah, blah. So after the 1700s, they started to talk about it in a different way. They renamed it and made it all hazy for people to really understand. So they blurred the facts. But the old maps give us this visual of this strait being the connection between the Arctic and the Northwest, North America. So And it says it marks a boundary. And now we know in modern times, I mean, they must have known it back then too, that the international date line lined up right up there, right up next to the Strait of Anian, and went through the magnetic pole. So this boundary, this sense of a boundary and a marker is, again, it's something you need to pay attention to on these maps. So then I got looking at where did this word Anian come from? And when I drilled down, I won't give you the whole backstory, but when I drilled down, it looks like it's connected to antemeridium, or meridian, which we call it now. And that stands for AM. So your early time of the day, your morning half of the day, or your front half of the day is AM, and your second half of the day is PM. So you have antemeridian and post-meridian. So the start of the day is related to this marker that goes down in what we call the international date line. A great circle or half a circle of a sphere passing through the poles is attested from late 14th century. Originally astronomical, figurative uses tend to suggest point of highest development or fullest power, implying a subsequent decline as an adjective from late 14th century. And I think it's interesting to see at the bottom of that paragraph, it says, people who thought meridian meant junction. And then talk about how people were confused about things. I think we're more confused about things now than what they were back then.
All right, so yeah, we'll pause it there for right now, but you know, if you want to check out the rest of that video and other videos she has, I shared her channel there in chat. But you know, I just wanted to share that information because it's very fascinating information, and she does do a lot of good research that we can see. I mean, she uses the J name and all that, but you know, the rest of the information is pretty amazing.
And on a lot of those older maps, it would also be called the land of Jesus in that true north up there.
Yeah,
It,
exactly. Yeah, I called it the land of Yahusha, but yeah. And yeah, I shared a link
right.
up here. Here you go, Sister Marissa. And anybody else, there's the direct link to that video. And actually, there is one more video. It's only 11 minutes long, but it's the final connection to the synagogue of Hasatan and the lies that they perpetrate to be victims. And I think it's very important to understand as well because they are the usurpers. They're the ones squatting in the land. They are the ones who are Edom mixed with Nephilim. And they're the ones claiming that they are Yah's chosen people when they're far from it. And they have a lot of the world deceived, unfortunately. Um, if not all Bibles around the world translate to Jesus or some variant of it. So we can see actually, even in the Hebrew scriptures, the Hebrew New Testament, we see it's written as Yahusha. No, so the translators translated it from Yahusha, or however you would like to pronounce it in Hebrew, and they changed it to Jesus. And because we know J's they weren't around at that time. And there are spellings in the Greek where it's Iosus or whatever, however you spell it.
Yeah, that's what it showed on those old maps. Instead of J, it was with the I.
Yeah. So I was calling it the land of Yahusha because that's how I pronounce it. So
Right, right, of course.
I don't think because their brother Angel, names don't transliterate, but you can spell it in your native language. So, like, for example, someone from, let's say, Mexico, and their name's Mateo. And Mateo is Spanish for Matthew. So if let's say he comes from Mexico, he comes here to the U.S., and people start calling him Matthew. And he's like, no, I'm Mateo. But people keep calling him Matthew. Like, that's not right because Matthew's not his name. It's Mateo. It's kind of like the same with Messiah. So he was
Right.
Hebrew. He had a Hebrew name, and it definitely was not Jesus. Now, there are people, like in the church, things like that. They haven't learned this or they don't understand it yet. We were all there as well ourselves, but once we know the truth, we have to teach the truth as well. So, we have to realize he
It
was
is,
a Hebrew.
how come it is that they translated Joshua the son of Nun as Joshua directly from the Hebrew to English, and yet, from what I understand, Jesus, Yahusha, are supposed to have the same name as Joshua the son of Nun, and yet in the New Testament they didn't translate it as Joshua as it did Yahusha the son of Nun's name into English, but they left it or made it as Jesus instead of
No, yeah,
Joshua also in the New Testament, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, exactly, and that's kind of what I was speaking about the English language as well. So it's a deception. So Yahusha would technically translate to Joshua and not Jesus. So that, just like Sister Germaine said here, it's part of the deception and it's very deep. And, it's not really about pronunciations, but it's about, do you truly believe in the biblical Messiah and what it says, not what some church says. But like I said, once we know the truth, we have to understand he was a Hebrew Israelite, so he had a Hebrew name, and J's are more recent. There are translations in the Greek where it's Isus or whatever, but in the Hebrew New Testament, and there's actually a tab in our library group with links to the Hebrew New Testaments, and you can download the PDFs, but it's spelled Yahusha. So, I mean, I think that was a play that they were trying to do, like a trick on words or something with the Greek. and that's why they really push the Greek. Because if you actually look at the Hebrew and some of the verses, some of the Greek, the Hebrew is more accurate and it aligns more than what they would say the Greek is saying, you know. Here it's in our library group. Here, let me let me find the thing here. Here we go. So we got this one. And so there's the Cochin Hebrew Gospels, and then there's the Sephardic Hebrew Gospels as well, which he uh it's Revelation or no, James and Jude, that's what it is. I know there's one about Revelation as well. Oh yeah, here it is. Oh, that's the video though. But yeah, all of that, those are you can go to those sites and download the PDF. Except that last one, it's a video, but it's the same people, but that's their YouTube video, and they have a whole playlist because they haven't got the Hebrew Revelation out on PDF yet. So they're going through it and showing how the differences and the translations and things like that. It's really interesting. And yeah, no problem, sister. And it's quite a difference when you read things like in so I forget where it was. I think it's in Matthew and Mark. There's some kind of discrepancy in the Greek where after, you know, Mary saw Yahusha at the tomb, you know, after he had risen, and he said, hey, don't touch me, you know, I haven't ascended to the Father yet. And so no one was allowed to touch him, and nobody did touch him. But in Mark, there seems to be some kind of contradiction, and it says, oh, they bow or they touched his feet and, you know, worship him. But when you go to the Hebrew, they didn't touch his feet. They bowed before his feet, not touching him, and gave him praise. So the Hebrew really clears it up with things like that. Yeah, exactly, Micah. Yeah, he says, forgive them not, for they know what they do. And that you can also, it's even right there in the Greek when you go and look at it. You go to the Greek interlinear, and it says, forgive them not, for they know what they do. And they mistranslate it to say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, the Pharisees were literally trampling on Yahuwah's temple. They trampled on his laws and his Torah, his statutes, commands. They spit in his face. They refused to say his name. I don't think there's any forgiveness for blatant sin. And we don't see that because when you blatantly sin like that and you're spitting in the face of Yahuwah, he's not just going to forgive that. You know, that's why they're Pharisees. Yeah, the synagogue of Hasatan, the vipers. He told them blatantly who they were, and that's that's the same. It's the same people who are there today. You know, all what we see over there, the squatters, the synagogue of Hasatan, all of that stemmed from Pharisaical laws and statutes. So they're just continuing on. the same as they were doing back then in Messiah's time. Same Pharisees, all of this. And actually, that's going to bring us right into this next video, which shows exactly who these people are and the lengths that they will go to deceive everybody. Yeah, no, it's true. So I'm just going to really let this video kind of speak for itself, because YouTube does not like these things. Give me 1 second here. So yeah, no, YouTube does not like these kind of videos. Here, come on. Sorry, trying to get my share screen up here. But this is just going to show a little bit of the history and about basically WW2 and some of the truth behind that. But like I said, I'm really going to let it explain itself. I don't want to go too deep into it and get flagged or anything. Oh man, I keep sharing the wrong screen. Apologies. Okay, so I shared the link to this in the chat there. And 1 second here. All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and let it play.
What's up, everybody? First off, I want to say that I am not saying that any historical event didn't happen. That's other channels telling everybody all history's fake. I know all of these events happen, but it's what we've been told about these that I have a problem with often. And what we've been told about some things are completely blown out of proportion. That being said, the rest of this is completely hypothetical. I just thought we'd look at a few things here and do some math just for fun. What we're looking at here are communal bread ovens. These can be found in pretty much every village throughout Europe, because used to you would have a baker that baked all of the bread for the town, and this goes back for thousands of years. It was done the same way back in the Roman Empire. We kind of take ovens for granted nowadays, but used to it was kind of a big deal to have an oven. Maybe the nobility would have their own, but pretty much the whole town would get their bread from one baker. Some of these were pretty large. You can see this guy crawling up in there to clean it out. And these could have maybe been used for other purposes. You know, we'll talk more about that later. Let's do some math. If we start in November on the 11th of 1941, and we count up the days roughly to January 27th, 1945. Starting in January of 42, you have 1, 2, 3 years and 1 month to the end of January. Then add on November and December at the end of 41. That's 3 years, 3 months. So 3 years times 365 a year plus 90 days for the 3 months is 1,185 days, give or take. In that time, at least 1.1 million loaves of bread were baked. This is at one specific bakery. If you divide 1.1 million by 1,185 days, you get 930 loaves of bread per day. And I'm sorry about the crude analogy about this hypothetical situation, but 930 a day gone without any trace left. And this is at a place where official numbers say 700 worked there in 41, about 2,042, 3,000. So in the first year, that's more than worked there were processed. And then 2 employees per loaf, and then 3 employees per loaf, if you just go with a straight number. So there's as many loaves of bread disappearing without a trace as the amount of people that worked there. But they only know the religious affiliation of 556 members. Being a baker is a dangerous job, so they get your religious affiliation so they know what to do with your remains should an accident happen, like high velocity lead, because they're a baker. But they only had these records on 556. Now, they say that there's one bakery here with 3 ovens, and that 340 loaves could be baked every 24 hours in these 3 ovens, which is impressive because nowadays it takes about 3 hours each. But they were doing 340 a day in 3 ovens. And then later, they shut it down, opened up 4 new ones, and then used the first one as storage. That's why they tore out the furnaces and the chimneys, and there's no trace of them being there in bakery number 1. Now, I'm not sure if this is number 1 or number 2, but it says it's the bakery where 930 loaves of bread were baked every single day. This is what 1,000 people in a theater look like, in case anybody was wondering. So that would be an enormous amount of physical work. And if there were as many loaves of bread as there are bakers, and the loaves saw a never-ending line entering this building, never to return, well, you'd think you'd have a lot of problems with the bread rising up, right? What have you got to lose? But in 4 years, there were only 930, about the same amount, processed each and every day. So let's look at a review of this facility. And remember, nowadays it takes 3 hours minimum to bake a loaf of bread, but somehow they were able to do 300 a day in 3 ovens, which is only 600 short of what would have to be going on. Well, that's going to take a lot of wood. They usually wait a few days because, a loaf of bread is 70% water. So here are the railroad tracks, and each rail car can fit about 100 loaves of bread. So those would be marched all the way across the camp right there for everybody to see, 900 a day, up here to the bakery. Plus another 5 train cars or so of wood would have to be hauled. I mean, that's a good little distance, quarter mile or so. Some people are known for their efficiency and engineering, so it would make sense to, put the train tracks right next to the bakery. But nah, they just hauled everything by hand. That's not very efficient. Okay, so you can see the smoke up there. But I guess this was their day off because there's no smoke coming out of the bakery. And you have just a walking path right there that leads into it. So where's the mountain of wood piled up? And why didn't they put the bakery right next to the train tracks? Now, other accounts say this was a bakery, that's a bakery, that one, that one. Okay, but there's still only smoke from one area. Must have been another day off. Some accounts say this was all being done completely outside of the facilities. And then the bread rising areas, those were destroyed. So there's no trace left of them. And then the other one, well, it's partially dismantled. They took the main equipment out, so not much trace of anything going on there. And you notice how this is right next to the disinfection building? This still happens today. If you're checking into any facility, they throw this powder all over you to kill any lice or anything like that. Now, everybody's heard of these horrific bread rising chambers, and this was the yeast that they were using, which has tiny, tiny amounts of hydrogen cyanide. And this was used to eliminate lice and pests. And notice how the disinfection building is right next to the bread rising chamber that got completely destroyed. This stuff is so vile that it's still used as a pesticide in California fields in 2018. And the head of the EPA said that this substance was insufficient to declare it a health hazard. But back in the day, they marched 1,000 loaves a day all the way across camp and used a pesticide that's still quietly used to eliminate them. So if that wasn't enough to make you wonder about what you've been told, I've saved the really compelling evidence for here. Everybody's heard of solitary confinement, right? That's where when people are acting up, causing trouble, getting in fights, they're sent here. It's a detention inside of a detention in order to deter people from acting out. I'm going to call this Block 11 in this hypothetical scenario. And this is where you send people suspected of sabotage, contact with outsiders, people who tried to get away, and just all the rabble-rousers. So if you're in a place where almost 1,000 people a day are being marched into here and never heard of again, not a trace of their existence, if you had somebody that was causing problems, wouldn't you just move them to the front of this line? I mean, seriously, come on. You're just unceremoniously dispatching 1,000 people a day. But then when you have somebody that doesn't just quietly march off of the train and carry a whole bunch of wood with them, evidently, then you pull them out of line and you put them in solitary confinement? Wouldn't that be a step up from the situation they were in just before that? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And then there's this. Between Block 10 and 11, they have a place known as the Wall. And they say the first eliminations took care in November of 41. On November 11th, 151 were taken there and dispatched. And they say this went on to be 4,500 altogether. So you're in a place where 1,000 people a day quietly disembark the train, march a quarter mile over here, and just accept their fate with only a staff of about 700 to do all this. Then why did you need the wall? I mean, the same thing's happening to everybody all day long, right? Just train load after train load. People would. But if you got out of line, then you got taken to the wall. It doesn't add up. None of it does. See, now they've got these documentaries out trying to explain the psychology behind everything. And they're literally explaining to you that this staff, this is the actual staff, is running a bakery that bakes 1,000 loaves of bread a day. And they're all just out here smiling. Yeah, no big deal. We can do that. And we're all just completely socio-psychopathic. Did you know that they were looking for mass resting place evidence for 80 years before finding it? In 2021, they finally found 12 altogether. And this was along a route that was known for a forced march. It was in the middle of winter and not everybody made the journey. In that same 80 years, people have wrote hundreds of articles explaining why there is no physical evidence whatsoever to support anything close to what is being claimed. And then there's the Enberg trials. Everybody's heard of these. These are actually defendants here that are all laughing. That's Goering on the far left, Hess right next to him. And man, you would think if 6 million had disappeared that there would be a lot of people sitting here in the defendant's chair. But a grand total of 21 defendants ever stood trial for that whole thing. Out of the 21, 19 were convicted and 3 were acquitted, and of those, 12 were sentenced to the wall. So day in, day out, 930 loaves of bread every day, nonstop to get to that number of 1.1 million, and then only 12 out of all of them. And I've only been using examples from one specific bakery, but out of all of the whole Eastern Europe, 19 were found guilty of wrongdoing, and 12 of them only were bad enough that they received the ultimate. Now back to the ovens. If you go there today, this is right there on display for everybody to see. See how nice and clean those are? Especially when compared to ovens that have actually been used. All the black soot all over them. It's almost like these were built after the fact to perpetuate a narrative. Because let's not forget that the furnaces and chimneys and some of the walls had to be torn out because they needed more storage. Because when it takes 80 years and, new technologies to finally find these hidden resting places, you better have something to show the world. Like some brand new ovens. There's no way I'm going to be able to release this video. Static out.
Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff there. But as you can see, yeah, but that's a lot of information they don't like getting out there, and they definitely do not like that. But in that playlist there's actually quite a few videos that go into a lot of detail about that, and even there's been prominent figures that have stood up and asked for evidence and things like that, or question it, like, where is the evidence? And they get persecuted, things like that. The normal when you don't follow the narrative. So yeah, does anybody
Jeremy,
have... Oh, go ahead.
Jeremy,
Go ahead.
remember a while back I shared the one about you are Amalek? Did you
Yeah,
save
yeah.
it on? Yeah, that might be a good one to also share on the chat here
Yeah.
with those that.
Is it in
I would have to go ahead. I think
I
you
was just
went
gonna
ahead
ask.
and when I shared it, I think you went ahead and saved it to where you have all the other videos, I believe. I think.
I was
Because
just
I would
gonna
have to
look
go
right
searching
now.
for it for again. I did not save it. I should have saved it, but
Let me check and see.
yeah, because that's really really good one too. There's like 3 parts to it.
So I believe I did, but there's a lot of videos up in there too.
Yeah, I know you do have a lot.
Let's see. I forgot how many videos are actually in here. Wow.
I know I had gotten that one from Rumble.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm pretty sure I forwarded it here. I
Yeah.
thought I did. Mm, Maybe I forwarded it to a different topic. I could have swore I put it in here. I'm not seeing
Yeah,
it.
because I remember one time you went ahead and shared it. So I was assuming you had saved it.
Yeah, I thought I did as well.
Yeah.
I remember it.
Oh my goodness. Boy, he goes into so much detail and history. He lost a lot of family and friends over it.
Yeah,
But we got to expose this stuff.
exactly. Test everything, search out everything.
Yes.
I'm not seeing it in here though, sister. I don't know why.
Okay, I'll try to get on Rumble and find it again, and I'll share it in the chat.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
No, that was a good video though. That was a good video,
Oh
I
my
remember.
goodness. Yeah, like I said, there's 3 parts to it. Man, oh, he's did amazing research on that whole fake Israel over there. My goodness.
Yeah, yeah. And we do have a tab about that. Maybe that's where it's at, actually.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably where I put it at. Let's see. There's quite a lot of video as well. Let's
So much information.
see. Um, that Testament of a Nothing Burger's in there. I see that. Where is that? Wait, is this it? No. Huh, it's not in there either.
Oh, okay. I'll look for it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I could have sworn I sent it somewhere. I'll have to look through all the tabs later. There's so many tabs in here. But yeah, yeah, it's you know, knowing the true history of that, it really brings everything all together. And it's basically the foundation. Because once you understand that and who they are, you know exactly who not to follow. But yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything they would like to add or say or whatever? What about you, Brother Lee? Shabbat Shalom, by the way.
Which of the scriptures that you shared of the Hebrew scriptures does the name Yahusha appear?
I believe everywhere where you would see it as Jesus in the regular scriptures,
What
that's
was that?
where it says quote unquote Jesus in all the other translations, that's where it would be.
I'm just wondering because I just looked at one of them and it says Yeshua.
Yeah. Yeshua, Yahusha. Yeshua is the way they pronounce it. But when it doesn't say Jesus.
That's true. It doesn't say Jesus.
Yeah, there's that video. Here, I'm gonna
It looks like it has all three parts on that one.
awesome.
Yeah.
I put it in the Synagogue of Hasatan tab.
Wonderful. Awesome. Okay.
But yeah, no, in the Hebrew, we see it's nowhere even close to anything like Jesus. And like you were saying before, brother, it would technically translate more to Joshua and not Jesus. But we know that names don't transliterate. So your name would be still pronounced as your country of origin. And actually, so the Boss family, the ones who put together Yah's scripture, they live in Panama, and his name's Jason. And there's a Spanish name for Jason, but they don't call him the Spanish name for Jason. They try to pronounce it Jason. There's no again, there's no J's, so they call him Jason. Don't call him the Spanish version of his name, and it's because he's from here in the U.S. Oh, awesome! Thank you for sharing, Sister Jermaine. Yeah. I've done some studies about the name. I have some videos on my channel about it as well from quite a while ago. Yeah, does anybody else have anything they would like to add or say or whatever? Ask for prayers. If not, we'll probably end it here soon. We It was a 6 hour fellowship today. Praise Yah. And yeah, we already have our topic for next week as well. So that one will be a fun one. But
Looking forward to that one.
yeah, so it'll be interesting for sure. And yeah, it's ironing, sharpening iron, really. That's what it's all about.
And whatever the outcome is, we can always still love one another and learn to agree to disagree on certain subjects.
Yeah, absolutely.
To still be loving and kind to one another, and no matter how people see it, it's just according to our own research and how we see things. So
Yeah,
he's working with each one of us. He really is. He's working with each one of us. And
I agree. And
so remember, the
yeah,
biggest test is how we're going to treat one another.
yeah, and as long as we still have that same foundation, we agree with pretty much everything else about the same thing. I think that's
Right.
what's most important.
Right.
And I think it helps to set an example for others, because honestly, the example that's been set is not very good,
No,
especially on
it's
social
no,
media.
it's yeah. Yeah, we have to be so careful. We don't want to be that stumbling block to others, you know, to show that, hey, even though we might not agree on everything, we're still going to love one another. And, our Heavenly Father has us at each different level of understanding and conviction. And, you know, He knows.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I will definitely be praying for you there and your family, Brother Micah. It's not easy in this world right now, especially with everything that's going down. They have this whole digital ID thing coming. I believe they were trying to implement it over there in the UK. I don't know if Ken is still on here. I know he talked about it a little bit earlier. But yeah, they're starting to implement these things, the whole digital ID, the tracking and tracing, all of these things. And I think it just shows how important it is. You know, we need to come together for real.
Can you
And
hear
we can. Oh yeah, we can hear you there, brother.
so if you can hear it, something I wanted to say is that our government here in the US tethered us to a satanic AI system, what is supposed to be a conscious supercomputer, and put us all on enemy status. That being said, as I understand, they're in bed with Israel. And that being said, there are people worldwide suffering from the same kinds of things. And so, assuming that the information that I've learned is true, that same satanic AI system is tethered to humanity worldwide in a worldwide conspiracy and essentially trying to destroy and or force down people and is fighting against people of the faith, trying to convince people that they don't believe, trying to prevent people from listening to gospel music, listening to sermons, reading the Bible, etc., 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 anything more or less to prevent people from growing in the faith, in the knowledge of the truth, and walking in obedience to the faith, and even potentially trying to prevent people from being born again, and at the same time attacking people's thoughts, emotions, trying to force blasphemy in your thoughts, in your emotions, etc., and essentially trying to force damn people. I've talked about it before with at least a few of you and shared some videos about it, but it is very real and it's like being a prisoner in your own body. It's horrible.
Yeah, no, that would be horrible, honestly. And yeah, they have so much crazy technology out there that they don't even tell us about. It The AI definitely is, I believe it's demonic itself or it's controlled by demons. Either way, really is the same thing. But we've personally seen it fabricate evidence or fabricate information just to, what's it called? Suit somebody's ideology or something like that. It wasn't just saying, oh yeah, this information here, like saying it. It was actually citing sources. But when you actually look into those sources, they didn't exist. Or it wouldn't say what it said it was saying. So, AI is very deceptive as well. And a lot of people are relying on it to, write their articles or write their posts on Facebook or write responses to people's comments. And I don't think people realize, it will literally just fabricate information. And then if that's the route people are going to take, what work are you actually doing? You're just putting a question and having an AI answer it for you and then copy and pasting it. And, that's not doing work. So be very careful with the AI, 100%. I'd be careful with all their tracking and tracing and their cameras that they want you to put on the front of your house. They can tap into all these things. And yet, Brother Raphael, I will definitely be praying for you and your family as well. Yeah, yeah, I believe we heard all that, Angel. No, I'm, yeah, I'm pretty sure we heard the whole thing. It didn't break up for me or anything. But yeah, that's kind of what I want. That reminds me of what I wanted to go over a bit as well. And, we can see time is very, very short. And Ezekiel's key does have that really amazing Jubilees chart that, it took them almost a decade to put together and figure out and correct. And they're saying it's coming very soon. And I don't know, there's some legit stuff that they have on their Jubilee chart. I would just consider the fact that we have to factor in they added 700 years at least to our timeline and what they tell us. So if you factor that in, it puts because they believe Satan's little season is only 25 years. But if you factor all that in, I guarantee you're going to get more around 250 years of Satan's little season, which would put it right on the money.
Somebody mentioned earlier that, they were talking about the 1,000-year reign, and a season would be a quarter of that, which is 250 years. I think, the end is near. But according to the people with the Ezekiel key, did they come to that conclusion by their study of the Jubilees?
Of You mean the Jubilee timeline?
Yeah.
They took Jubilees into account. They took a lot of scriptures into account. It's 144 pages, and it's definitely a lot of information to go
Okay.
through.
But did you say that they think we've been in Satan's season for only 25 years?
Well, they don't think we are in it. They think Satan's little season is only going to be 25 years.
Oh,
And
wow. Don't we wish?
yeah. And that's my thing too, is, it's going to take more than 25 years to deceive all the nations of the earth.
Yeah. It would
Because,
take several generations.
yeah, 25 years just isn't enough.
Yep.
Literally, like, your great grandfather will still be alive. So, I mean, they can pass on that information. Be like, oh, hey, this is how it was.
Yeah.
Versus several generations going by, and then that information's not lost. So yeah, that's the only qualm I really have with it, and it's because they haven't factored in the added time,
Uh-huh.
like that at least 700 years, and
Yeah.
there's also a video that shows 1,000 years could be added, but we know for sure at least 700 years worth. And so
Oh,
when you factor,
that re yeah. That
oh, go ahead.
reminds me. I'll post that timeline chart of the millennial reign and where they've been telling us we are, but where we really are. Okay, I'll do that right now
Yeah, yeah,
as soon as
and
I
that's the
can
thing.
find it.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, sister. And that's the thing
I
too
think
is on all. Oh, go ahead.
I think she said it was 21 years for the season.
Oh yeah,
That's
21.
interesting.
That's 21. Sorry. I knew it was in the 20s somewhere. But yeah, when you factor in the added timelines, there's plenty of videos out there with it shows these old world buildings, and they have a date on them, but they'll make you think it's like, oh, look, it says like 17 something, but really that it's either an I or an L that's in front of it, and then it'll only say like 700 something versus 17. And I believe those letters are probably are what they use to mark whatever age or whatever they're in. Kind of like how we have BC, AD, something similar to that. But again, that's just me speculating. I do know for sure they lie about a lot. It's all to hide the truth of Yahuwah. And yeah, no, I've seen that video.
Everything's opposite. So if you believe the opposite of what they say, you're being told the truth, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. If you believe opposite of what the mainstream says, you're probably on the right track. Anything they say, do opposite. They say, "Oh, look, this Elon Musk brain chip, it's really cool and hip. You should get it." Well, no, do the opposite. Do not get it. Oh, hey, these digital IDs are really convenient, and all you got to do is the palm of your hand over this, and you're all good. Don't do that. And it goes into their, again, how the English language is, it's like a spell casting language, and all the words have double meanings, or if you spell it one way, it has a totally different meaning, like we saw with the word straight there.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah,
I just kind of woke up, but anyway, just like when somebody tells you to have a good weekend, no, tell them you're going to have a strong end, not a good week, not a good weekend.
wow, yeah, yeah. I didn't think about that one, yeah.
Yep.
And it has to do with their maritime law that they enforce. And there's quite a few videos about that out there. I'll have to go find one. I know we've spoken about it before, but
Uh-huh.
literally everything we say or they make legal, like marriage, things like that, it all has to do with this maritime law. And the
Yeah.
maritime
So
law,
next
oh, go
time
ahead.
somebody tells you to have a good weekend, you tell them, nope, I'm going to have a good strong end.
Yeah. No, that's good.
I just caught that.
And just like it says, like a good morning. Well, mourning also means to, be in pain or weep, things like that, when you mourn for someone. So that's why, I'll either say Boker Tov or Grand Rising, because there is no good mourning. You're not mourning anything.
I understand it's supposed to be the most accurate for the New Testament, and as I understand, was directly given to the apostle or to the Syriac church from the apostles. But if you notice there, not only is there a number of notable differences in the Aramaic Peshitta, but for instance, that scripture that was just shared, it essentially, the King James Version essentially is talking about the devil blinding their eyes so that they don't believe. But the Aramaic Peshitta seems to say that God, and we know who that's supposed to be, has blinded their eyes. So someone there in either the Peshitta has been corrupted or the KJV has been corrupted, but those are opposing ideas in the same scripture.
Well, I think we can take a really good guess on which one would be corrupted, and it starts with King. The King James has twisted and corrupted so many different verses, and because it's based on the Masoretic. Not only that, he removed Yahuwah, his name, almost 7,000 times and replaced it with Lord, because kings were called Lord, and he wanted to be associated with that. And there's also the part where it says, well, in the King James version, it says two men will be laying with each other and one will be taken. Well, it doesn't say that. Like, if you take it back to the Hebrew, it doesn't actually say that. So they twist things, they kind of switch things up, and that's the confusion that they make. Yeah, exactly, Angel. That's what I was going to say, but they don't like that word on YouTube. So, when does the Sabbath end? It ends at sundown. So I personally observe it, and I know others do here as well, from sunrise to sunset. And then the night is still part of that day, but it's to separate the days, to keep an unclean day from touching a set apart day like the Sabbath. I know some people will believe it's from sunrise until sunrise the next day, and that's fine. Again, it is another topic that we really shouldn't separate over, but really the Zadok calendar and scriptures all support that the biblical day starts at sunrise. Yeah, and are there not 12 hours in the day? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no worries, sister. Oh, is that timeline there, sister? Sarah?
Yeah, just a simple sketch.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually that reminds me of what I was going to say earlier, because, most of the timelines they give us about that, they don't even include the little season.
Yeah, it's just kind of looked over it. This sketch doesn't show or say the little season in, but I didn't make the sketch. If I'd made it, I would have put it in there. But it does show the 1,000-year reign. And the arrow, the white arrow after the 1,000-year reign to the Gog Magog war, obviously is Satan's season. I just wish they had labeled it as such. If you can tweak that and add it, Jeremy, if you have the know-how how to do that. That'd be great. And I can send you the one without the red arrows. I added the red arrows.
Yeah, no, I can do that.
Okay,
I can
I'll
actually
post
quick
the
easy.
sketch without the arrows. And you can do you know what you want. Even make the arrows
Yeah,
look
no,
better.
because you're right. Yeah, yeah, that arrow from the millennial reign to the Gog Magog war, that's literally Satan's little season, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You're pretty good with graphics, so I'll post that.
All praise to the Most High.
I have a question if you guys don't care.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys might have answered it because I had to turn it off a little bit earlier. But my question is, before the Gog and Magog war, will we be like, quote unquote, I don't want to say raptured, but will we be taken to the camp of saints, or like, do we know?
Well, we do see that I wouldn't call it a rapture, but
Yeah.
when we go to the wilderness, he will protect us. And because we do see that, we have to flee to the wilderness, especially when we start seeing these major signs, and that's where
Oh,
we'll be protected.
so it's kind of like
So,
we just,
Cheyenne,
and everybody else like freaks out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Cheyenne, it's my
Yes.
personal belief that at some point believers somewhere or another will actually migrate towards the north, and whether this snow, as they have been yapping about in the past about global warming, so to speak, if indeed the ice is melting in the north and they know it, then perhaps the snow in the north will be melted and we'll be able to walk up towards the north. And that's how they'll surround the north, because we will have migrated up north safely.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting point there, Angel. Of course, we know the water isn't really rising or lowering because, when you look at pictures like of certain beaches, even from hundreds of years ago, the water's still the same exact level. So they make all these claims like, oh, the sea's rising because, the ice caps are melting. It's to perpetuate that spinning ball Earth narrative.
From what I understand, there is a literal drain, perhaps in the north, uh, or wherever it is, so the waters from the ocean drain into it, and it cannot go above that point, at least at this point in time, as I understand.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you just reminded me about that. Yeah, I've heard that before. That's that whirlwind that surrounds the magnetic mountain. It's like that's how the water flows, kind of like that toroidal vortex that we were sharing earlier. Fascinating. And and what makes what makes me think about that even more is so that channel Vibes of Cosmos, and they're the ones that actually present a lot of the moon map, how the moon is a reflection of our Earth, or not a reflection, but like a photo negative of our Earth. But he goes when he's describing the firmament, he's basically showing that very picture that Marissa had shared earlier when I was trying to describe, our Earth being on that flat plane in the midst of that toroidal vortex. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to save this image too, because that's a good one. So here it is. So he basically describes it like that, and then we're that flat center plane there, and then the firmament is above us, and below it would be the rest of that sphere, the bottom half, and that's where the great deep is and all that, the foundations of the earth are. So technically it is a sphere, but we're not on this outside of this sphere. We're on that central plane in the middle there with the firmament above us. And then everything below it, because all around that is the waters. And we know that because right there in the beginning, he created the firmament and it separated the waters from above from the waters below. And that actually has to do with why they know about this maritime law and why they create this maritime law, because they know about the waters above and the cymatics and the sonoluminescence, all these things we've recently gone over. And it absolutely connects right back to Yahuwah. It's really fascinating, honestly. And then it connects with the calendar and it connects with the timeline. It literally all connects. And yeah, I'll definitely I'll just add a little text right there on that arrow uh, for that meme there, Sister Sarah. And I'll say this is Satan's little season.
Oh, okay, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, because that is actually a pretty good layout there. And then we also have to
It's
remember,
easy.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just an easy one to show people that can't conceptualize it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and they're gonna make the same events play out before and after because of that deception. And so that's why we're gonna see these same events play out. And we know that because there's nothing new under the sun. So he's just gonna repeat everything he did to deceive everybody before. But this time, Messiah and all of that is hidden from us. And all we have is the Ruach to guide us. Like Yahuwah is not taking us to a mountain like he did to Moses, telling us exactly, like, hey, this is how it is. We have to search it out, and with the Ruach and with each other, coming together. Because it's not like the time of Messiah either, where we have Messiah physically right in front of us, and he's telling us how it is. The children of Israel, when they were being taken out of Egypt, they saw the pillar of fire and the cloud. They heard Yahuwah speak. They heard his voice, and they couldn't stand it. So they said, "No, Moses, you go talk to him," because he was going to tell them the commands himself. But they got all scared. They didn't want to hear it, and they said, "No, you go, Moses." And so he took Moses up and told him the commands. But really, my point of that was because they saw these things happen. They literally saw these things. Whereas today, we don't have a pillar of fire or clouds to follow, but we do have the Ruach. Yeah, it's just important to have discernment and to be able to discern all the lies versus what the truth is. And they certainly feed us a whole lot of lies, and it's all to deceive the entire earth, to hide the truth of Yahuwah. Like I said earlier, there's not one nation on the earth that actually follows the truth. Yeah, if anybody has any other questions or anything they'd like to add, feel free. If not, we'll probably end it here. And I wanted to say thank you all for joining and listening and contributing as well. It's about coming together, studying these things out.
Yep. It's been a good day. Shabbat shalom to everyone.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. And I'm definitely going to be praying for healing in your lungs there, Brother Angel. And I'll just be keeping a general prayer of protection, everything, and strength to be able to overcome the enemy as well. Yeah, we do all. Sure. Yeah, thank you all for joining. Much love to each and every one of you. And we will meet again the same time,
Yeah.
same place. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something to say?
Oh, not me.
Oh,
No.
okay. Sorry.
No. I was
No,
talking to someone
I
else.
heard something. Okay, gotcha.
Sorry, I
No,
need to mute it. I need to
yeah,
mute it.
no worries. But yeah, no, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We will meet the same time next week, and we'll go over a little bit about the deity and Yahuwah, Yahusha, all of these things. And it'll just be ironing, sharpening iron. And I look forward to it. But yeah, I look forward to every one of our fellowships and our meetings and discussions we do. And, even throughout the week, just texting back and forth, all the discussion. It's really great. But I appreciate each and every one of you. Yahuwah bless each and every one of you and protect each and every one of you. And we will meet again next week. Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, and see you on the 46th.
Oh, yeah. That's right.